The opinions expressed on the Custody Queen Show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal, professional legal advice. The persons discussed are fictional and not based on actual clients.
Thought it was love, had kids in between. You can count on us, we're the Custody Queens. Yeah, you can count on us, we're the Custody Queens.
All right, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to another day of Custody Queens with Kristen Holstrom and myself, Sam McBride. Nice to talk to you all again. It's only been a week. Today we have Sadie. We are so excited to have her. She's the host of Divorced and Happy podcast. We're really excited about this, Sadie. So thank you very much for joining us.
And I love the name of your podcast. I just got to say that, because for 5 years since Sam and I have been on the air, we have been really trying to make it our mission to normalize divorce and not talk about it in such a negative way, to embrace it. It's a new transition. It's okay. It's sometimes, more often than not, the right thing. But I love divorce and happy, because those two things can coexist.
Right, to have the audacity to be happy after divorce.
I know, but I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
If you're gonna get divorced, might as well be happy afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so
Go ahead, Sam.
Sadie has created a vibrant community for those navigating the challenges of divorce while embracing the journey to happiness. With her relatable stories, insightful advice, and uplifting spirit, she inspires listeners to find joy and empowerment in their new chapters. Join us as we dive into her experiences, explore the lessons that she's learned, and discover how she helps others turn challenges into opportunities for growth. I love that. Mm-hmm. And again, we are so happy to hear this, because in Kristen and I's job, we get a lot of, why are you divorce attorneys, or divorce is so bad, or you're divorcing families. And, just in kind of being in it for so long, Kristen and I just really have noticed that there's such a positive light at the end of most of these tunnels. And, the idea to empower yourself and take your power back and create your own new happiness, I just think it's what Kristen and I stand for.
And it's so delicious. I mean, the idea that you can take this terrible, awful, scary, daunting, stressful experience called a divorce, and then be on the other side of it and create a life that one of my friends who's a divorce coach said is like so incredible, you didn't even think it could happen. Like, it's
right.
It's really exciting. So, the first thing that I want to say to your listener is, if you're going through this process, I get it. I've been there. It was probably the worst season of my life. I mean, and we all have our challenges in life, but for me, that was a huge hit, going through a divorce. It wasn't what I was expecting, when I got married 15 plus years ago. But on the other side now, like, I'm 6 years out of my divorce. I have a real vibrant community on Instagram, over 100,000 followers. I've just started a Happily Divorced Club. I've been doing my podcast for 4 years. And so what I keep seeing day after day, really, is people who have been through this process are ready for the joy, for the reinvention, for the delicious fun, for the great sex. I mean, all of it. Like, they're ready to go. So they're drawn to my page because I'm showing up that way, and I've always showed up that way. So if I can do that, it's not like I'm doing something magical. It's not like I, grew wings and I'm flying. I mean, I just am choosing to focus on the happiness, the possibility, the excitement, the new connections. I'm sure with your career, ladies, you've met so many incredible people who've gone through a divorce. They weren't great people, right? We're great people. Yeah. Went through a divorce, right?
And sometimes and you sometimes you act maybe in not the best ways when you're going through such a tough situation. But I just think the most important thing is to keep some hope and motivation, even if you don't know what your life looks like after divorce. Hope to create a new one and move towards that. Maybe you don't have the perfect plan, and maybe you can't see what 7 years post-divorce looks like right now, but we do see, and Kristen and I hear from former clients all the time, how much they have been able to take back their happiness. And that's just so great for us to see. And it makes our job feel a lot more meaningful, honestly, because we're helping people get through the storm, and then there's going to be a rainbow.
Yeah,
100%.
life is way too short to be that unhappy. And when you're in a marriage that's broke down and you've tried all the resources, and I'm not saying you should, give up on something that counseling may fix. But sometimes two people just grow apart and they have different, they have different journeys, and that is okay. It's like when I get people that call me and it's like they want to whisper on the phone, I want to get a divorce. And it's like,
Mhm.
that is okay. When you were 24 and you got married and you guys had the same beliefs and you were aligned, people change. They evolve. And sometimes you grow together, and sometimes that's not possible, but it's okay. But life is too short to be unhappy. And at the end of the day, your kids feel it.
Right.
Your family dynamic feels it. And we just talked to another great guest the other day, and there's so many emotions that go into the divorce process and managing your expectations. You may not be okay the day you get served with divorce papers, especially if you were blindsided. But keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep navigating, keep managing your emotions and your expectations, and you can be divorced and happy too.
So, Sadie, let me ask you, how did you come up with the idea to start this podcast?
Well, Well, for me, again, it's kind of like when you go to a great restaurant and you experience a delicious meal and you just want to tell everybody about it because it was so good that they have to have that experience too. And I think for me, after my divorce, I really reconnected with so many sides of myself that I didn't have the bandwidth to connect with, like my creative side. I'm an artist, I'm a photographer. And so just like being able to have the bandwidth again to create, to
Right.
dream, to think, outside of this pain that I was in for so long, reconnecting with myself. I mean, I really had abandoned myself a lot in my marriage to try to keep the peace or to just try to put on a happy face, that type of thing. And I wasn't being an authentic person. And so once you go through a divorce, it's like, you know, the cat's out of the bag, right? Like everybody, like I got divorced. Can't really hide that. So you might as well go for it.
Yeah.
Right. You might as well go for it and be like, yeah, I was living a life that wasn't authentic and I don't want to do that anymore. And when you start sharing your story and your truth, it really gives people a space and comfort to do the same. And so that's been a great, outcome of my podcast is just like, well, if this woman can talk about all these topics, I can talk about these topics. If this person can, explore A, B, and C after divorce, well, why can't I? And so giving people that space and that freedom to be like, what do I want now? What's new and exciting for me? Now that I have space and bandwidth to actually take care of myself, focus on my own goals. Obviously the children are a huge piece. My kids, responded to our divorce very differently.
Mhm.
My daughter had a really hard time and she was the younger of the two, and now 6 years later she's thriving. She's the lead in her junior high musical. She plays sports. She's a class leader. She's different in different organizations, and she's thriving, but it took her time to get to that place. And so another thing just to share with the listener, like right after my divorce, I was like all in. I'm like, let's have the party start now and like keep
So you're a
going.
divorce party kind of
But
girl,
my
right?
kids weren't there yet. And also just having the honor, like honoring their experience and honoring my experience. Remember one heart-to-heart chat I had with my daughter. I was like, you know what, you get to feel really sad. You get to feel all these feelings. It's hard. It's not fair. This isn't what your mom or your dad and I wanted for you. But also I am happy and I get to be happy. So how
Right.
do we have this together? We're coinciding in this grief and also this happiness. And one is not better than the other. And one person doesn't have to pretend to not feel their feelings. We get to feel them in this space together. And I think having those honest conversations early in to the divorce or after the divorce was really good for my family. Showing them that you can be authentic and have hard conversations and get to the other side of it and grow stronger in your own resilience and your own understanding of self. And she's so great at boundaries and like, well, this is how I feel, mom. I'm like, exactly. I love it.
Right.
Yeah. And how you feel matters.
It
So,
does.
those hard times, even after a divorce, lead to some incredible relationships with your children. So, like, don't feel defeated so early in if it's hard. Like, and don't feel so guilty and shameful, like, ashamed of yourself for wanting something that was good for you, because your kids will get through that hard time, if you can support them in a way that gives them the space to be where they're at and to really express themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kids are resilient, and I love one thing I said one thing you said that I loved is it's okay that your kids, and if you have multiple kids, they're all on a different journey,
Right.
but it is okay that they may not be at the same place as you. Everybody processes things different. And then I think that's something that parents want to do right off the bat. They want the kids to be okay with the divorce or the new
did.
decision a month later. And if they're not, then they're doing something wrong or they should get back together. It, you have to allow the kids to go through this journey, hear them, listen to them, just like you said, have those hard conversations, but also let them know, hey, mom's okay, dad's okay. We're still a family. It's just a different looking family. But you can feel the way you feel, and you don't have to feel the way I do today. That's your journey. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And it gives for future relationships that, there's a lot of caretaking and people pleasing amongst women. I think we're really conditioned in life as mothers, as daughters, as wives to be good, to be loving, to be giving. So I think it's good for my daughter to see her mom like take care of herself and
I
find her
struggle.
own happiness. Like it's important that I get to be happy too.
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot. I talk to Sam about it, a lot. But I do agree, as mothers, we are wearing all these different caps.
Right.
And it is very easy to lose yourself because you're doing carpool. And if you're working, you're going to court, you're dealing with employees, and then you're going to soccer practice and school plays. And we do lose a lot of ourselves. And no, and that's, I'm coming from a very happy, healthy marriage, and I still feel like that. But it is okay, women, moms out there. It is okay to feel lost sometimes. It is okay. Stop beating yourself up. It's just, life has all these twists and turns, but also recognize that you should take steps to take care of yourself as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of a thought I guess I've just been sitting here having is that I think it's so great that you have this podcast, and I think that's part of why Kristen and I do what we do too on the show, is just that it's so important to talk about these sometimes vulnerable, true, genuine life experiences, because there is a lot of stigma associated with a lot of this stuff. And I think that one of the better ways to fight that is to continue to have everyone have a space to hear it and to feel heard. Because even if you feel isolated or alone and you're going through a divorce and maybe everyone's against you, maybe your family doesn't agree with your decision, your children are not where you wish they were at the time, even if you're giving them that space, it can feel really isolating and really alone. So to be able to reach out and follow your podcast and share those experiences, I think it is such a great thing. But I also would encourage all of our listeners to go check out Sadie's podcast and any podcast that may help you in that way. I mean, there's plenty of things that we can all do to work on ourselves, health, and fitness and mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, all that. But I would just say, if you don't know where you're going and you're not sure what happiness looks like for you, keep trying new things. You never know what kind of experience or community help will get you to that next step.
Right, which is one reason I wanted to start a Happily Divorced Club, because social media is fun. I love my community on Instagram. They're great. We have great conversation, but it's not like this. I can't look at their faces. I mean, I can respond to a comment, that type of thing. But in the club, we do have virtual meetups. And so I can have these conversations with my global audience and have that type of support, and seeing, a human face and hearing their voice. It's really impacting. And one of the best things, I mean, there's many great things about life after divorce, but one of the best things, if I haven't said this already in our chat, is the people you meet. I mean, it's incredible. Through my podcast, I do meetups also in different cities, live meetups in cities like Chicago, Denver, New York, Washington, D.C., my hometown of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and meeting people in real time and having these conversations. I do this fun game called Divorced Bingo. Y'all play bingo, right?
I love it.
And it's like the first time you blocked your whatever. I mean, and then everyone's like, bingo. I mean, it's just kind of funny. And there's these great conversations that come out of these topics. And the club, again, it's been so fun to meet people from all over the country, because we want community. People who've been through a divorce, they get it. You just, oh, I've been through a divorce. Oh yeah, I've been through a divorce. It's like an immediate connector. There's
Right.
not a lot in life that connects you in that type of intimate way, because it's a very intimate personal experience going through a divorce. So however you can find community, listener, I highly encourage that. Start your own meetup in whatever city you live in. You know, you don't have to just follow the leader. You can be the leader. Create your own community. Go
And the
for
best
it.
thing about
It's meaningful.
podcasts, you can put them on while you drive. You know, I mean, that's how I study now. And I'm in the car a lot. So that's the
It
best thing
sounds
about
that way, yeah.
that's the best. I have
That's
3
smart.
kids. So I'm, if it's not work, it's them. But that's the best thing about podcasts. And I don't know you, but I often feel like I'm, engaging in a live conversation. I'm like, yeah. Oh, I totally get that. Oh yeah, 100% right. Oh, I should try that. All right, but I want to ask you, can you share a memorable moment of something positive that has happened with one of your guests?
Oh, with one of my guests.
Like maybe it was a life-changing breakthrough for them, or it was an
Sure.
aha
Yeah, I
moment.
have a guest who's also become a friend. Her name is Juanetta Beasley, Dr. Beasley. She was a sponsor of my podcast, and she's been through 2 divorces. And her second divorce, she initiated because she was being physically abused. And just the process of, you know, having the courage to say, I'm, this PhD, highly educated, successful woman. I mean, the shame she felt being in an abusive relationship, but have the courage to, it's like, I don't deserve this. I'm going to get out of this. And she's created a lot of content. She's created a workbook for her following people who also have been in physically abusive relationships. And just recently, she purchased a home to help women who've been incarcerated have a safe space to live when they are done with their sentencing and
Wow.
come into the world again and need someone to give them a chance. I mean, and I just think she is so awesome. How she took this really hard thing, not just, divorce, but just surviving an abusive relationship, and how she's now paying it forward and giving other women who deserve a second chance that opportunity to make their lives matter and count and be happy.
Just
So
taking her
cheers to
trauma.
Juanetta. Yeah, she's become a good friend of mine, and I think she's incredible. I call her, she's a force after divorce.
Oh, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. I like
I love your phrases.
No, but I love that she took a trauma and
Mhm.
and again, people, people don't realize that even very intelligent women, that these things happen to us as well. And it may not be an abusive relationship. It may be something else that, how did I get myself in this mess? But it happens to all of us. And I am a big like mea culpa, or like, hey, wasn't the best version of myself. Or
Mhm.
I have been living in survival mode, and you know what? I could have handled this completely different. Or
Mhm.
I am a huge like, my bad. I am an over apologizer sometimes,
Mhm.
but I think
Yeah, that good girl. Just she's
life is too short to. I don't know. I think an apology often can go so far, but really, what people are looking for is the accountability.
Mhm.
But when I hear people say, "Oh, Sam and I deal with haters or critics of the podcast all the time," or how many, if I had $1 for every
I
time
believe it. I've
we've been
received that
called
too.
strippers or hookers, or oh, they're too they're too attractive to be attorneys, they must not be real attorneys.
Oh,
And in the first year or two, I was like, I wanted to respond to all of these, what do they call those people, trolls. I
yeah,
wanted to
the
respond to the
haters.
trolls, and now I'm like, hey, thanks for bringing light, but at the same time, you don't ever know what someone's journey is, but people are so more often than not wanting to attack, and that generally comes from their own insecurity than it
I
is
think so too. And just not understanding. I mean, I think also divorce has made me more of an empathetic person. It's made me a lot less judgmental. I have no interest in judging someone's marriage, like 0%. I have zero interest in judging someone's love life or someone's sex life. Like, that's their business, and good for them. Because, it's my business what I've decided with my own love life and sex life, which has changed dramatically since divorce, which has been a lot of fun. But I think a lot of my followers, like, they'll listen to my content. They're like, yeah, I'm reconsidering how I'm dating. I'm dating differently now because I don't want to do the same thing. I don't have monogamous relationships. I'm non-monogamous now, and that's a fit for me. And that's very out of the box for a lot of people. So there's a lot of judgment around that. Like, well, you must have something wrong with you if you don't want a traditional monogamous relationship. It's like, no, I did that for 40 plus years of my life. I kind of mix it up with the amount of remaining time I have. Why not? And maybe I'll change my mind again, but I have the freedom to date how I want to date because I'm not looking for a marriage again. I have children. I'm not looking to recreate a family. I have a family. So, the freedom, like after your divorce, you get to write the rules. You really get to change your life. And there's not a lot of opportunity for that, I don't think. You can change your career, you can move into a new house, you can change your wardrobe, whatever. But a divorce, it's like a mindset. It's like I really have changed my lifestyle. And so I think sharing that on my podcast has given people permission to think much bigger about their act two.
And I think sometimes when you're in a relationship that's maybe not good for you, sometimes you're a little too close to realize it. And sometimes kind of
space
listening to other people's testimonies about what's worked for them. I mean, everyone's situation is different, but sometimes that can kind of allow people to realize that you can restart, you can recreate yourself as many times as you want. Like, you are allowed to do those things, and it's okay. And it's okay that you maybe had a particular opinion for 10 years and a lifestyle for 10 years, and you don't want anything to do with that anymore. That's okay. And so, yeah, I think that that's great. And I'm always an encourager, fan, and support to anyone that is sharing their very vulnerable stories, whether it's domestic violence, divorce, or some other version of it, because I just think for so many people out there that maybe don't have a friend or person that they can talk to about it because of how close it is to them, it just creates that helpful space.
It's your life, it's nobody else's. And I think getting to a certain point in your life, you also mature to the sense that I don't really care what user 5959 has to say about me or my, my personality or my motherhood or whatever I am. 5 years ago, I would have got defensive and I would have tried to defend myself on every level. And now it's like, you're entitled to feel that way, and it bounces, and we move on, but it is your life, and nobody should be writing that book but you, because at the end of the day, nobody's walking in your footsteps, right? So how or what resources or tools do you recommend for people that are navigating the divorce, and that we're in that position where the paperwork's been filed, the band-aid's been ripped off, but we're not happy yet, right? What resources and tools would you give our listeners to look into or to use?
Well, again, going through a divorce is incredibly emotionally exhausting. It was probably the most isolating time in my life. I think I talked to maybe 4 people the summer I was going through a divorce. So if I had to quote do it over again, I would absolutely not lose community. I would be really intentional to stay connected to a certain, like 3, 4, 5 people daily, just to check in. I think I just didn't want to keep talking about going through a divorce, so I just didn't talk to people, and that wasn't healthy for me. It was just too isolating. So tried to stay connected to people, figure out who the safe people that you are. Now I have a journal, ladies, and every season, so winter, spring, summer, fall, I write in my journal, who are my safe people? Like, who are the people in my world that I can count on? And I write their names down. And then I reevaluate it every season. Are these people going to stay? Are they going to not stay? Who else gets to be added on the list? And I think it's been a really helpful tool for me, because even though I am living a happy life, it isn't something I want to be completely insular with. So again, really write down who's in your safe circle, and then do your self-care. I mean, the great thing I did when I was going through my divorce is I exercised a lot. I took up boxing, which was very cathartic.
It is very. My 4-year-old blow up. It is. My 4-year-old has a blow up Paw Patrol. Right? And I know my mother-in-law got it for my son, and but I'm telling you, a heated conversation, an opposing counsel, or a soccer mom that's just totally unreasonable. It's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, very
And then it's like,
cathartic.
dude, I just, I saved $150 or a shopping bender to make myself feel good. So I am with you there.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I've had this conversation on my podcast before, like, but how are you outsourcing your happiness? So also I think it's a real special time when you not only stay connected to community, you do your self-care, but also really start to get a little more comfortable with your own company, because that's something I really have struggled with throughout my life. I'm very extroverted. I also was conditioned from a very young age. I'm a Gen Xer, so we were bombarded with pop culture about how relationships were like the key to happiness. And I know through a divorce, it's not true. So I also highly recommend to your listener, like, start reconnecting with yourself, even during that hard time of a divorce. Like, take yourself out on a walk, take yourself out for a tea, give yourself a long bubble bath, or go get that manicure if it's in your budget. Just do something soothing and sweet for yourself. I did a lot of journaling during my divorce, which really just helped me like identify how I was feeling. I would just write on the page how I was feeling, just get it out. I didn't have the budget when I was going through a divorce for therapy, and I'm a former therapist, so I'm all for mental health therapy, but I didn't have the money to do it at the time. So I try to be creative. I remember talking to my minister, because they aren't going to charge you for that. So I don't know if your listener is a person of faith, whatever that faith is. Maybe there's a religious leader that you could talk to in confidence. It was really helpful to talk to her, and have
And
some
in
peers.
confidence.
Yeah, in confidence, because she cannot tell. She could not. I could told her anything, and in confidence, she would have kept it. So she was a safe person to be vulnerable with. So again, find those safe people, reach out, be authentic with how you're really feeling. People care about you.
Have bad days.
Want to show up for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have bad days. It's okay.
Healing's not a straight line. I always say that. You're
No,
gonna
it's
have
very
good
fluid.
days, bad
It's very
days. You're
fluid.
not doing a bad job because you have a bad day. You
No.
just gotta keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, and even after my divorce and I was thriving and doing well in my new home, I remember one night very clearly, I was just brushing my teeth and I just started sobbing, just sobbing. And there was nothing that had happened that day that would make, connect the dots to why I was sobbing. But it was, I think, just a release, again, grief and just the stress and my body needing to release it. And instead of like feeling bad about it, it's like, wow, good for you. Like, good for you to be able to have that moment and just let it out and just be and just, yeah, it is sad. I'm happy that I'm divorced, but it was hard to go through and it was sad. And I definitely did not behave well. I was very angry and very much a victim during my divorce.
And it takes
Just a
time.
victim attitude. It takes time to heal all
It
of that.
takes
And
time, and
to
that
own your
is
own
really-
stuff. I think one thing divorce has also helped me do is really own my own stuff, and that I don't have to be a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person. And there was a lot of things to learn about myself and that I needed to do differently in order to have a happier life. And I'm grateful that I took the time and eventually I did go into counseling because I had the means to do so later. But it takes time to get to the other side of things and just being patient with the process, but also enjoying the journey. I mean, it is a fun life after divorce is a fun journey.
As
I
you
mean,
have
I don't have time today, but all the solo trips I've been on, I have so many stories, ladies. So
well, we'll have to
Yeah.
have you on again
I
because
would love that. That'd be great.
we are already out of time.
I
and,
know.
we'd
So
love
much
to be on
talk
your
about.
yeah,
after
we'd love
divorce,
to be
yeah.
on your podcast too.
Oh, for sure.
We love empowering women, empowering the journey, and embracing this next transition. And it's okay not to be okay every day, people. It's okay. But thank you so much, Sadie, for joining us today, and all of
Thanks
our
for having me.
listeners for joining us today and every Saturday on Go Country 105.1. We're just super excited to have everyone. You can give us a call at Custody Queens at 1-800-419-7772. That's 1-800-419-7772. We will make sure we post all of Sadie's information on our Instagram, so make sure you're following us. We'll make sure we provide her contact information. And if you are looking to be divorced and happy, Sadie is your girl. And Sam,
And remember, let love
rule.
rule.